Hello everyone, it's Diane. I just have been working on cleaning up a little bit more. I had most of my mess cleaned up from the previous project and I had a little bit more to do. And the last thing I'm going to do is use these little bits on a master board, glue them down, and then add some elements for decoration, and then set it aside for another day. And then I want to work on the covers for my farm themed journals. So I took a piece of not too sturdy cardstock and I added this scrap, and I'm going to put this part of a book that's on my desk. I'm just going to glue them down. I just made a few-second video for my great nieces because my sister is with them today. There's no school. We have snow. It's still snowing. So schools were canceled, and these are little girls. Like, I don't know if the oldest one is in kindergarten yet, or they both are in pre-K or, what do you call it? Just not school yet. But anyway, she's home with them, and they are cleaning up their toy room. And she just sent me a video, sent my other sister and me a video of progress made, piles here and there, stuff that's going to Goodwill, stuff that's going in the trash, and the huge amount of stuffed animals that they cannot possibly part with, etc. You know, little girls, and it's hard to get rid of toys. So she just sent a couple videos of that. So I was getting ready to make a video here, so I showed these sweet little girls a video of my mess, well, my room. I just kind of panned a part of the room and said, this is Aunt Diane, and this is where I'm cleaning up my mess today. And I said, this is where I play. What do you think? And I sent it on our sister chat, so I don't know if Barbara has seen it yet, but I know she'll show it to the girls. Can't wait to see what they have to say. So yeah, I woke up to snow. I actually heard the snow plows. And it's not a huge amount of snow, but it's been snowing steadily since the early AM hours, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock. I was sleeping, so I don't know when it started. And it is a little after 11 now, I believe. You can make such fun things with cardstock like this if you just take a few minutes to glue down some of your scraps on a piece of paper or a piece of cardstock. Set it aside for later. Cut it up when you're ready to start creating with it. Add a few embellishments to it, or not. You can stamp on them. You can glue down some ephemera pieces, either digital or cut from books and stuff. And you can get a lot of use out of it. So that's all. Let's see, this is just a thin piece. I guess maybe I'll glue some of this down. I'll glue down the piece with the holes. I do have another pile behind me. Oh, you know, piles are the bane of my existence. There's always piles. Are you the same? Do you live with piles? Mostly in my craft room. So I've been thinking about the covers of the farm journals, and I have something to start with and some ideas, and we'll see how it progresses, what I end up deciding for the covers. And Well, I have this little piece. This is just a little strip. I hate to waste coffee dyed papers. I don't know what other areas around me are like weather-wise, but I was watching the weather maps over the last couple of days because I knew we were supposed to get this storm today. So I was watching it, and it looks like some areas around me are getting a lot more snow than we are. So I have this pile, look at that I can use. So even just this page out of an S&H green stamp book would be awesome to stick on here. Now just a little space. I have this top of a receipt from 1975, and that fills in my spaces. And normally I would leave it at like this, but I have these other little pieces that I don't feel like putting them away. I feel like let's just glue them down somewhere. So I'm just going to add a little bit of embellishment, and without cutting the board first. So this is just part of the master board. Usually after I cut them up and then I will embellish. So some of these embellishments will get cut. Oh, I just laid this down there and I like the way it looks, so I'm going to put that in the corner. This is a stamped piece, and it's hard to read it because it's just red ink on the brown paper, and it will get cut. So I'm just going to glue it down, and it'll provide a little bit of texture because you will see there's something on that paper, whether you can read it or not. This is from an old greeting card, this blue border. And I did use some in a journal, but I still have these, pardon me. I still have these pieces left. Guess I won't use that one. Is there anything else in here I want to put on here? Oh, look at this. I have more from that card. It was on the inside and the outside. So I'll just add this to the pile. This old receipt from 1898. That's pretty cool. Okay, this is going to just be set aside until I'm ready to cut it up and decorate it further. Now on to the covers. I had talked about maybe using fabric on cardstock, but I decided, I found some cardstocks. See, I'm trying to keep these pretty simple. And when you make a fabric cover, it's a little more complicated, in my opinion. But I found these cardstocks. They're not super sturdy. So I picked out some things I can decorate them with, and I would put a fabric on the spine to reinforce that. And I would definitely either put fabric or paper, more cardstock or something on the inside. So let's just start with decorating the outside. These are the elements that I was thinking of. I like this rooster on this blue denim looking piece. I feel like my camera is, I'm going to move my tripod a little bit. I think that'll be better if I don't hit the tripod, because now the legs of it are closer to my feet. I have some burlap here that I can put behind this rooster, but I really like the colors of this with the with that blue denim color. And then this one is a cow and a calf, and I have this little wooden barn I could put on it, and I thought it looked good on the brown wood. And for this one, I have this very old, I think it came out of a Wards catalog, Montgomery Wards, from the 1930s. Milk bottles and caps, and I would look for a prettier milk bottle cap. I have some with colors, but this is what I had here. So back that with something and add a milk bottle cap or two. So let's do that one first. Let me grab my milk bottle caps. I keep them in this vintage tin that used to contain ballerina chocolates. Isn't that beautiful? I love milk bottle caps. I don't know why. I think it's just because I'm a farm girl. And I got to thinking last night after I finished my video and uploaded it, I thought, I don't think I finished talking about what I had started talking about, being a farm girl. So I thought, well, I'll continue. Oh, I like this, that green with the orange and this green. So let's see. I have a hard time getting these out of their wax cap. I usually don't have this much trouble, but these certain ones I did. So I told about I was a farm girl, but I forgot to say that my grandfather, I did say my grandfather had a round barn, which did burn down years ago, which is a real shame because round barns are very rare. And we lived on a steep hill. We lived there was a tiny little town at the bottom of the hill, and we lived on the hill, like halfway up the hill going out of town. And my grandfather lived on the left side, and we lived up the hill just a little bit and on the right side. So we would cross the road, and we could be off the road, and there was a path we could walk. It was all worn down. It was our path for walking to Grandma and Grandpa's house, and he used it too to walk to our house, which was pretty fun. Grandpa was coming over sometimes. And we both had barns, and we both had ponds. I'm looking through my burlap. But I don't know if I want to put burlap behind this. Maybe I'll look for some orange cardstock. Maybe, I was going to say a patterned orange cardstock, but I could emboss it. That would be cool. Let's pick out an embossing folder. I'm going to cut, or not cut, but emboss a couple different designs and then make a decision which one I like. I definitely like the checkerboard one better. And I'm going to trim it. I'm going to cut off the edge that's not embossed. But then I will also cut this smaller. I'm going to rub a little brown ink over it lightly. I like my bigger table. I have to reach farther for stuff, but that's okay. I needed the space, and I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So how much of that border do I need? Of a border do I need around the image? I want to trim off the very, very top because it has like a little raised edge from the folder. And it tore it a little bit, so it's going to look a little rough, and I don't mind. It can look rough. This is a rustic theme. Because the embossing, the blade sticks in the embossing and kind of pulls on it, so that's kind of cool. See if that's small enough. I think that's the right size. I'm going to ink around these edges to kind of highlight the rough spots. This is a very fragile paper because it's the cheap catalog pages and it's from the 1930s. So I want to make sure I glue it down very well. So this is selling a dozen milk bottles for 89 cents and then 1,000 caps for 39 cents. I'm going to glue it down, but I'll probably stitch around it once the glue is dry, just for looks. Well, that's a fun sound. So I won't glue this down yet because I want to sew around the piece, but I love the colors on that now. Glad I found that cap to use. Now for this one, I had made this to be a pocket, apparently, a tuck spot, but I can round the rest of the corners and ink them. And what kind of burlap do I want to use? I have this yellow, which would pick up the yellow in the rooster. There's very little, but this is very bright and it's very big weave. Let's just look at a typical burlap, like a burlap sack. Yeah, I like that. I could put a tiny piece of yellow on for an accent, maybe. But I know I'm not done talking about my farm days, so I'll mention another anecdote right now because of the burlap. We used to have this slanted thing in the top level of the barn. I was saying my grandfather had the round barn, and we had a barn also. But our barn was, I don't know how old it was. Our house was a big old farmhouse. That might be too small, that section. I'm going to move over here. Yeah, I grew up in a big old farmhouse, and the barn, like one section of it, it was a one-level section. I think we had a 3-story barn, so it had like a basement, and the part that we played all over in it, but the main floor, I guess, and then there was an upper level, which probably was the hay mow, because I don't think it covered the whole, it didn't go all the way across. So what was I saying? Oh, so in the main level, there was a slanted thing, so I think it was over the stairs. I'm not sure. I was a kid. I didn't think about architecture. But we would take feed sacks, empty feed sacks, and there were slats nailed to one side of this slanted thing. I'm going to have to ask my dad what that slanted thing was. Because you could climb it. There were slats nailed to the one side of it to climb up, and then the other side was just open wood, splintery wood, you know. And we would put the feed sack down and sit on the feed sack and slide down. It was a short slide. It was not a tall thing, but we did it over and over and over. What fun. What fun to grow up on a farm. I didn't have farm chores to do because we didn't have a lot of animals. We just had the cows, and my dad and my grandpa, and sometimes my brothers milked the cows. We had barn cats. There were grain bins on the main level. I believe it was on the main level. And I loved getting in the grain bin and just playing because the grain was cool. I didn't realize, it could have been dangerous if I'd gotten buried under that grain. But my brothers were always there. But years later, I think it was my mom said, there would have been mice in those grain bins. Oh, I'm glad I didn't know that then, because I had too much fun doing that. I didn't do that all the time, but I was in the grain bins sometimes. I don't think I ever saw a mouse out there, or a rat or anything, because we had barn cats. So that's fun like that, but I think we need something else. So that's what I started talking about, that slanted thing in the barn because of the feed sacks. We had a pond. My grandpa had a pond. We didn't keep cows at our barn. I think we did when I was real young, but for the most of my memories, I cut that crooked and I did it on purpose. All the cows were at my grandpa's. He had a nicer barn. Let's put that over there. Maybe I want it up here. Can sew some buttons on this. Let me see if I would like this old blue rather than the yellow. That yellow just seems so bright. I got these old colored burlaps at a yard sale or a flea market years ago. I've used them quite often over the years. Yeah, I think I like the blue better. Do you? Let me go get some buttons. I have my buttons in 2 vintage containers. This Cheese Krispies can, the other part of your cocktail, and a product of Holland. So I guess it was like a cheese cracker sort of thing. And this gorgeous thing that I picked up at a thrift store. I have some buttons in there. I don't know what this was for, if it came with anything in it. I have this one and I have a blue one. I have vintage buttons and new buttons. I would love to use vintage buttons for this project. Looking for a small brown one. Or white. I don't even know if that's vintage, but it's brown. Or I could put a little yellow one on there. I don't want to take it off the card though. Oh, these are the, I think these are what Tammy just sent me, and she sent me these. And I threw them in with the buttons. I'm glad I got my buttons out because I would have been looking for them. The Mickey Mouse eyelets. Okay, so now do I need a label there? Let me see what I might have in here. I can, like some sort of a word or a phrase. Something about a rooster maybe. Fresh eggs, that's a rooster. Roosters don't lay eggs. Country. The early bird gets the worm. That would be cute. I could make a label out of that maybe. See what I've got in scraps to make a label with. I think we're getting too busy with that. Well, I don't know if I'm going to make a label for down here. Or let's see if I'd like it above the rooster. Let me cut this. I think I do like it like that, but I think it does need something between this piece and this piece. This is the back of that vintage greeting card that I had all those blue pieces from. Yeah. I do want to make a farm journal for myself eventually, but it won't be a traveler's notebook. I have lots of memories to write about on the farm. My uncle and aunt, who lived in a place called Ridgeberry, which is really close. It's just like up in the hills. Of course, East Smithfield was hilly. I'm in the valley right now. But Ridgeberry was, I don't know how long, it seemed like a long ways away from us when I was a kid, but it wasn't. It was maybe 15, 20 minutes away. But they had a farm, and I would go out there and stay. My aunt had 5 boys, and so I would go out there and stay for a week in the summers so she could have a girl around. And I loved my aunt. And they had a barn with cows, so they did dairy. And I got to like feed the calves sometimes. That's cute. I like it. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that. Yeah, we'll do that. Don't overthink it. And we played in the barn too. I remember we put on a play. I wrote the play. I was a playwright. I wrote several plays when I was in grade school, and my friends and I put them on in school. I helped write the plays, but I wrote the play at my aunt and uncle's farm. And my cousins and probably my sister, because she came and stayed over sometimes too. We put the play on for my aunt and uncle. We were up in the upper level, the hayloft part of the barn with the outer doors wide open, so that was our stage, and they were on the outside watching. So I don't even remember what the play was about. Just kids having fun, being creative and imaginative. And they had some horses, a few horses too. And they had a pond, of course. I think all farms, working farms, have a pond, so the cows have a place to drink. But my uncle had a job, and I remember my dad having a job, even when he was haying the fields and milking cows. He still had a job to go to, because the farm didn't sustain big families. They had there were 5 cousins and 6 of us kids. And back then, women didn't go to work. I was born in the late 50s, raised in the 60s. So not very many women worked. We had a vegetable garden in our side yard. We had a big yard. We had, you know, the big front yard with a pear tree in the middle. Well, not in the middle, but near the house. And we had 2 side yards. And then the back of the house was a broken down garage that we played in. I mean, it wasn't like falling down broken, but we didn't put a car in it. But we played in it and made mud pies because it had a dirt floor. And we played in the barn. We had, I called it the Pine Grove. We had the field. I told you we were halfway up a hill. So the field going up the hill from our house was our property. So we had sledding parties there because it was a nice steep field. And we had a pond to skate on. We usually skated on my grandpa's pond because his pond was bigger. So there's that one, and I will add these buttons. There's that cover. Where's the first one? Here we go. I feel like this needs something more, but we'll think about that later. Probably running out of time here. Well, no, because I've got some editing to do. Edit some stuff out. Now, I need to back this with something. It's got a little pen mark on it, I see. Maybe it's pencil. Didn't even notice that till just now. So it's not that noticeable. But it is pencil. It's coming off. Why do kids like to scribble in books? I don't remember scribbling in books, but I probably did. So I think I'm going to trim this a little bit more. Cut out some of this blue to give it, just give it more shape, not just a blobby shape. Does that make sense? There. That looks better. Do I want burlap behind them? I have this blue again. I don't want to use one of the browns. And I don't really want to use that bright yellow. And I have a moss green. So I think the blue is the best option if I want to go with burlap. Oh, I did bring these fabrics over if I wanted to put fabrics on the insides. I have 2 ticking, blue and red ticking, a red gingham, a couple of bandana prints, 3 of them, and this one. If I want to put fabric on the inside. I had pink burlap, but I think this is all I have left. Once upon a time. So let's see, what do I want to put there? Not that. I don't know. I think this is just something I'm going to have to think about. I might go through scrapbook paper and look for a small pattern to put behind this. Or, oh, I have an idea. Hang on. You can watch me try out this idea. I don't know why that just jumped in my head, because I have it and I always forget about it. I want it to be brighter red. Here we go. That's paper, but that might be better. Wonder how this would work with corrugating the paper. Let's try it. paper doesn't work. I've never done it with paper. If that doesn't work, I'll use cardboard or cardstock. Okay, if you've never used a corrugator, this is by Fiskars, and I've had it for many years, but it's got these two rollers that are ridged. So you put your paper in between the two rollers, and then you twist this handle. It always comes out a little bit crooked. I never get it in there straight. Twist this to feed it through. And you have corrugated paper or cardstock. Oh, what I didn't do is make it the right width. So I have to trim a little bit. I wanted to have that all cut before I corrugated it, because I was wondering if the cutter would like press down some of the corrugation, but I guess not. Now that'll fit. The corrugation came out just fine. And it just highlights, helps them stand off of the page and adds interest. All right, I'm going to glue this down. So back to my farm stories. As I said, I remember the work that my father, grandfather, and brothers did with the haying, the milking, and all that. I didn't even know that we sold the milk when I was growing up. I didn't know. I didn't even question where does the milk go. But I know that by the time I was still in high school, we didn't have cows anymore. A neighbor up the road, the daughter there was a classmate of mine and was one of my group of friends. They had a dairy farm, and we would buy milk from them for our personal use. So we didn't have cows anymore by then. But I forgot where I was going. So what I remember about the farm was when I was quite young. Except for, I do remember the haying, because I distinctly remember we had fields that weren't near our house, but they were part of, I think they were Grandpa's property. And they would drive their tractors up the hill and off to on a side road and to wherever their hay fields were and do the haying. And then they would have to bring wagons of hay. You know, it was a process, and they had jobs. At least my dad did. My grandpa ended up going to work where my dad worked when he retired from farming, or retired from the cheese plant. We had East Smithfield Farms was a corporation that had different buildings in different towns. So the one in our town was the cheese plant. And they made cream cheese, and I don't know what else they made. But I know my grandpa brought cream cheese home, like big bricks of cream cheese. There was a pasteurization plant in one of the local towns, and different portions of East Smithfield Farms were scattered around. So I was a country girl, definitely, and a farm girl for a while. And I have a fondness for farms. Whenever we drive somewhere and I see a beautifully maintained farm with a farmhouse that's painted and barns kept up and the property kept up, you know, mowed and looking nice. I just admire them so much, and I think that was a lot of work. I don't think our farm was like that. But we did have a long driveway that, you know, from the road to the barn. It was a long driveway. That was great for riding our bikes. Because living on a hill, it's tough work to ride your bike on the road. That's really cute. I like it. It's probably my favorite just because I love the illustration. So you can use so many different things to make covers, and not just make covers, decorate covers. So I used a children's illustration as the focal point on this one, children's book. And I used, oops, I lost a button, a stamped image on this one, and a very old catalog image on this one with a milk bottle cap. And there are so many other options available, especially within the world of digitals. You can always find digitals to use for any theme. But I love these, and I hope that you like this beginning of our Farm Traveler's Notebook Journals. Which one is your favorite? I'll get back to working on these in another video, and I'll see you then. Have a creative day. Bye.